What if picking up a few coins from a fountain made strangers fall in love with you? This is the wild story of Beth, a woman who never believed in love until a trip to Rome changed her life forever. Beth is 29 years old, successful, sharp, and dedicated to her work. By day, she lived and breathed art as a curator at the Guggenheim in New York. She spent her time among paintings, sculptures, and collections that others only dreamed of seeing. To anyone looking in from the outside, she seemed like she had everything: a career that many envied, a lifestyle surrounded by culture and creativity. Yet behind the walls of her museum, Beth carried a loneliness she struggled to admit. Love had become something distant, almost unreachable. She had convinced herself that waiting for the perfect romance was wiser than settling for something less. But years of waiting had built a quiet bitterness inside her. The walls she put up in her career had also grown around her heart. Love felt like a luxury she couldn't afford. Everything began to change when Beth's younger sister, Joan, called her with shocking news. Joan, spontaneous and carefree, had decided to get married in Rome to a man she had only known for a short while. Her whirlwind romance had swept her off her feet. Beth was surprised, even worried, but she couldn't say no when Joan asked her to be maid of honor. With hesitation, she packed her things and flew across the ocean to Italy. Rome was warm, golden, and alive with history. The narrow streets, the echo of footsteps on cobblestone, the soft hum of conversations in small cafes. It was a city built on romance. And though Beth told herself she was there only for Joan, something about Rome made her heart beat a little faster. At the wedding preparations, Beth met Nicholas. Nick was 26, charming, and quick with a smile. He was also the best man. Their introduction wasn't smooth. They found themselves clumsy around each other, often in awkward situations that could have gone much worse if Nick hadn't stepped in. On more than one occasion, he rescued her from embarrassment. Though he seemed just as clumsy himself, their connection was immediate, even if Beth tried to ignore it. Still, as the days in Rome passed, Beth began to feel something she hadn't allowed herself in years: hope. Nick was warm, kind, and patient with her. For the first time in a long time, she believed love might still find her. But her heart was fragile, and doubt was always waiting. One evening, while walking near the wedding festivities, Beth caught sight of Nick. Her heart rose, only to drop in an instant. He was kissing another woman. The image pierced her, filling her with anger, jealousy, and disappointment. Later, she would learn that the woman was nothing more than the groom's eccentric cousin. But in that moment, Beth felt betrayed. Wandering through the streets of Rome, slightly drunk from wine and drowning in her emotions, she came across the Fountain of Love, modeled after the famous Trevi Fountain. Its waters glimmered under the moonlight, alive with the wishes of countless strangers who had thrown coins inside, each one a silent prayer for romance. Her sister had once told her a legend about the fountain. If you take coins from it, the owners of those coins will fall in love with you. Beth laughed at the thought, but her bitterness was stronger than her reason. In a reckless moment, she reached into the fountain and picked up a handful, a poker chip, a rare coin, a penny, a trick quarter, and a euro. She held them tightly, not realizing how her life was about to turn upside down. Beth returned to New York and tried to bury herself in work, but soon her days were interrupted by unexpected visitors. The first was Al, a sausage magnate, average in size, but full of energy and obsession. Then came Lance, a lanky street magician whose tricks were as exaggerated as his devotion to her. Next was Antonio, a painter who devoted all his attention to capturing Beth's image, followed by Gail, a male model who admired himself almost as much as he admired her. One after another, they appeared, each claiming their love for her, each refusing to leave her side. It didn't take Beth long to realize what had happened. The legend was true. The coins she had taken had bound these men to her, forcing them into an unnatural, relentless obsession. What troubled her most was Nick. He had returned to New York as well, reaching out to her with sincerity and care. Yet when Beth looked at him, all she could think about was the poker chip in her possession. Was his love real, or was he trapped under the same spell as the others? Her fear grew. She couldn't let herself fall in love with a man who might not truly love her back. Joan called Beth on the day of an important gala, reminding her of another part of the legend. The spell could only be broken if the coins were returned to their original owners. Beth held on to that hope. She decided she must give the coins back, but trouble came from within her own circle. Stacy, her secretary, had overheard the conversation. Out of misplaced concern, Stacy stole the coins. She believed Beth's life would be better if everyone loved her, spell or not. To Stacy, love by any means was still love. When Beth discovered the theft, her world spun into chaos. On the same evening, all of her enchanted suitors gathered at her apartment. Their persistence had reached its peak, but instead of anger, Beth chose honesty. She stood before them and confessed that she did not love them. Her heart belonged to someone else, to Nick. Yet without the coins, she could not free them. Desperate to set things right, Beth convinced her unlikely band of suitors to help her retrieve the stolen coins. What followed was a wild chase through the streets of New York. They piled into a tiny yellow Vespa 400 microcar, racing through traffic, swerving between taxis, and even bursting into the Guggenheim itself. Their journey became as absurd as it was dangerous, climbing elevators and navigating hallways in their frantic search. At last, Stacy returned the coins, realizing the pain her theft had caused. Beth carefully handed each coin back to its rightful owner, freeing them from the fountain's grip. But when the moment came to part with the poker chip, her heart trembled. This chip belonged to Nick. To let it go meant possibly letting him go as well. Beth called Nick, her voice full of emotion. She thanked him for making her believe in love again, even if it had all been a spell. Nick, however, was not ready to let her go. That night, a lightning storm struck New York, flashing across the sky as if nature itself was urging them together. Nick made his way to the gala, searching for Beth in the pouring rain. There, fate intervened. He picked up the poker chip she had dropped. Nick looked into her eyes and told her the truth. His love was real. The storm, the chaos, the doubts, all melted away as Beth let herself believe him. For the first time, she let her guard down completely. Months later, Beth found herself back in Rome. This time, it was her own wedding day. She stood with Nick, ready to say their vows, surrounded by friends, family, and the beauty of the city that had brought them together. But fate wasn't finished testing her. Lance, the magician, whispered to her that Nick had owned several poker chips. The doubt returned in an instant. If that was true, then maybe Nick had never broken free of the fountain's spell. As the priest began the ceremony, Beth hesitated. Her hands trembled. Her heart raced. And then she made a choice. She dashed from the church, leaving everyone stunned. Once more, she returned to the fountain, the place where it had all begun. Wading into the water, she searched for answers. And then Nick appeared. Without hesitation, he joined her in the fountain. The water splashed around them as he looked into her eyes with complete honesty. He confessed that he had never thrown a chip into the fountain. The poker chip she had found was never his. To prove it, Nick dropped a chip into the fountain right then and there. The sound of the coin hitting the water echoed like an ending to a long story. From the church, the priest's voice rang out, shouting, "Free of temptation." Beth's heart finally let go of its fear. She believed him. She believed in love. And in that moment, she kissed Nick, not as someone under a spell, but as the man who had truly captured her heart. Their love story, born of mistakes, magic, and second chances, had found its true ending. Don't forget to like and subscribe to my channel for more videos like this.